Welcome back, new friends. Today's story is a bit of a longer one, so let's get started with it. The title is Seeking Help in Identifying Abuse. My brother-in-law has been in a relationship with his current girlfriend for just over a year. They began talking right before he took a summer internship with a major car company out of town during college. He was miserable the whole time in his new job because she would tell him that she only thought about him and would use sexy Instagram photos to make him feel bad for not trying to come back to Minnesota every weekend to be home with him, posting things like, "You could have all this, but you're not here," and it's a suggestive photo of her in her bra and underwear. Then, when his contract was up and he returned home, he became an RA, and she insisted that he sneak her into his dorm because her roommates were being horrible to her and she needed to be with him more. My husband's family is very close and spend most weekends together either getting lunch or hanging out at my in-laws' house. It's something that they've always done, and it's by no means a requirement. They just encouraged it of all their kids as a way to make home-cooked meals or go out for special lunch on weekends and then have the evenings free to do whatever they would like. I was frustrated with it at first, but it was this big time suck each weekend, but I understood it was part of my husband's family traditions, and I just rolled with it. Even if I wasn't happy, I wasn't going to interfere with his relationship with his family. I say this because she told him within the first month of their relationship that, "I think your family expects too much of your time, and you need to tell your mom that she can only see you on Sunday afternoons, and that our time is Saturday and Sunday nights." He was initially a little hesitant and asked his sisters if this was normal, and both of them said it's a little odd because mom and dad don't require the lunches, we just have always done them. And one of his sisters said, "It's normal to want to spend time together, but it's kind of controlling to tell you when you can and can't see your family." Well, he repeated these things to the girlfriend, and she told him that he should cut contact with that sister, who I'll call sister-in-law M. Because M clearly didn't like her. M was getting married this year and had to change plans for the pandemic and took a 400-person wedding and dropped it down to 16. Just family, no friends. Girlfriend said to brother-in-law that the fact she was uninvited to the wedding proved that. They had been dating for 5 months at the time these plans were changed, and 9 months on the date of the wedding. Then she started changing his lifestyle, telling him that because my in-laws are frugal, he was denied the lifestyle he deserved and she expected. That I don't have a quote for, but it was implied in the conversation. That she deserved to be taken to nice places and nice dinners on a weekly basis, that they deserved the nicest things, and that they were too good for Target. Who's too good for Target? He had to wear clothes from brands she liked and use products she approved. She told him he wasn't taking care of himself and that he needed to start doing skincare and eat a very strict diet in order to be a better version of himself. He did lose 80 pounds. He became a vegan like her, which if it was just a lifestyle change to become healthy, I would get it, and I understand that people change a lot as they progress into adulthood. My husband and I were supportive of him and the girlfriend because we had understood the need for distance from my husband's and my own family. As we built our own, and we are both independent people who wanted to be able to operate as a unit separate from the expectations of others. We let them come to us with their frustrations, and we tried to mediate as the complaints came in. And we were even slightly swayed into believing some of the claims made against my mother-in-law. Then one afternoon, our family was joking around about what they were giving up for Lent. Things like Amazon, McDonald's, silly things, really nothing serious. My mother-in-law jokingly said to my brother-in-law, "Are you gonna give up, girlfriend?" He laughed and said no, and then like a switch flipped, he dropped a smile, whipped out his phone to text her, and left rather quickly. Within 24 hours, that was the shot heard around the world. My mother-in-law, who was a kind and caring woman who would do anything for her kids, was suddenly unable to accept this girlfriend, and that mother-in-law was a calculating and manipulative person who hated her, and that comment offended her so much she wasn't comfortable with brother-in-law seeing them anymore, because she thought they would say mean things and try to break them up. He wasn't allowed to see the family. This is when my husband and I began to get concerned, as did everyone else, but we thought it would blow over. It didn't. My mother-in-law even apologized multiple times in multiple forms, insisting there was nothing malicious and that it was just a bad joke. She does make bad jokes sometimes that can come across as rude if you don't know her, but she is the sweetest person and would never do anything to hurt any of her own children. She'd rather die a death by 1,000 cuts. She's one of the most selfless people I've ever known. This was the beginning of the isolation as we see it now. My older brother-in-law, Bill S., was brother-in-law's best friend. They did stuff all the time together, like work on their cars, go driving, travel, cook, food, play video games, wine tasting, etc. They were best friends, and S was never critical of anything, but he's very close with my in-laws. He is at their house often and has been helping to fill the time in their retirement, asking my mother-in-law to teach him how to cook family recipes and working on projects with my father-in-law. So slowly, he was cut off after he made a comment about how what Mom said wasn't an attack, she was just making a silly joke, and I think girlfriend might be reading too much into it. Then, as they approached their last semester in college, the girlfriend told him that they shouldn't hang out with his friends because one of them had confessed to thinking she was cute. The phrase used was, "I'm not comfortable with you hanging out with people who are in love with me." She also cut him off from his hobbies. He's a huge car fan and would spend many weekends going to Cars and Coffee with S, and he wasn't allowed to go, and he even said that's an old man activity and those guys aren't cool. Also, she drives a very nice car by a make that he loves. S asked one time if Bill ever got to drive it, since one would assume if your partner's into cars and you have his literal dream car, you'd let him take it for a spin or drive it to the grocery store here and there. He said no and then kind of fell into sullen silence and said, "She told me flat out I'll never be able to drive any of her family's nice cars." Then he reached out to me for support. He asked to talk to me about things. At the time I felt like, sure, okay, I'm a neutral party, they aren't my blood family, and I live 6 hours away. My husband and I are trustworthy and don't share things with others when told not to. Makes sense why he's coming to us. He expressed that girlfriend had opened his eyes to the trauma of his childhood, that his parents had given him a horrible home to grow up in because my father-in-law was absent a lot due to his job as a pilot, and that they put the church over the family. And she'd showed him that he had no real friends because of how controlling my in-laws were, and that he had a horrible high school experience because of his bad friends and horrible family. The line used to describe how horrible my in-laws was that they had written a script that they expected him to follow, but wouldn't let him follow it and punished him if he did. This is categorically untrue. Yes, my in-laws are religious, and yes, as the youngest of 6 successful children, he was given a little more attention and perhaps a little more expectation because of how smart he was. But not once did they put the church over the family. They were not controlling, they were normal. He had a midnight curfew, and they paid his car insurance. He was expected to mow the lawn at the family dental practice, and they impressed on their kids that good grades are the result of hard work, and that they expected the kids to focus on school before friends. No friends over if homework isn't done, homework out right after school to get it done. Incentives to get good grades and study, like money or trips or something like that. There was grounding if rules were broken, but no spanking, no withholding of things like phones or computers or video games. Extra chores may be added, like, okay, well you missed curfew, so you're grounded for the rest of the weekend and you have to clear the table all next week. Punishments that fit the infractions. Sure, they didn't have big blown out birthday parties and they lived well below their means. But this wasn't to deny their kids anything, it was simply the choice made. There were 6 of them, and it was hard to keep everything even, especially with father-in-law having to fly so much to support such a large family and comfort. He was allowed to pursue any interest with full support. was taking on international trips regularly, always had nice clothes, always had food, never had to want for anything. I can say I get frustrated with the frugalness, especially when they live with us while their new home was being built, and Lord knows they need a new dining room table, but they aren't hurting anyone. I'm not gonna let someone call them abusive for trying to save as much money as possible to leave a comfortable inheritance for all their children. They are well off. My mother-in-law inherited a very large sum of money, and that could have vastly changed the lifestyle that they lived, but they chose to continue to live frugally and help grow that sum to ensure that they leave it for their kids and grandkids. Something I think is very honorable and should tell you all you need to know about the type of people that they are. Anyway, back to the timeline. Then his graduation approached and he still hadn't found a job because she had told him he wasn't to look outside the city that she wanted to live in. That out-of-town car company offered him a very nice job in a different state, but she told him if he loved her, he would stay so they could be together and grow together. My in-laws offered to let him move back home and live rent-free for a year or so until he found something, or to help him save money to put towards a deposit. He was considering it. Then he said, well, girlfriend and I might move in together. Then it was, girlfriend found an apartment she likes, want to come and see it? But he never said that he was going to do it. He had said, well, it's expensive and I want to make sure I have a job first before I sign up for that. Cut to the night before graduation, she showed up at his dorm and handed him the lease papers saying she got them the apartment as a graduation present from her parents. They were going to help him pay his part of the rent and deposit. She couldn't risk him having a chance to go home. He also didn't allow any of us to attend his graduation, didn't tell my in-laws any of the details of the event nor the date, but her family took them out to brunch and took photos of them. When they posted them, it broke my mother-in-law's heart. This was the last of her 6 children to graduate college. She helped them all to graduate with honors, and she was so proud of them. But she wasn't even allowed to take more than one photo of them together before her family whisked them away for a weekend at their lake house. My in-laws were concerned about the apartment situation, but supportive, asking if they could help him buy some stuff for the new apartment. Girlfriend gave him a list of things they needed to bring into the apartment, so my mother-in-law and brother-in-law went shopping one weekend while girlfriend was visiting family. He was instructed not to buy anything without running it by her first, since she had better taste than him. He was simply trying to buy a shower curtain and texted her pictures of everyone in the store, and she had on FaceTime and said, this isn't hard. I guess I'll just order one from West Elm myself. I thought you'd realize that's what I wanted. The narrative shift hit full swing as M's wedding was approaching. The first thing was that he never committed to attending. Then once it approached, he asked if he could stay with my husband and I at our hotel. The wedding was out of town and most of the family was staying in an Airbnb with a pool that we didn't feel safe staying at with a toddler. We rented a room at a hotel a 4-minute walk from the house. We had the room and said yes, but why? Because I haven't seen them in 3 months and I know they're going to ambush me and try to separate girlfriend and I. Girlfriend suggested I stay with you guys, was his response. Now at this point, we didn't know he wasn't seeing them. The last time they had seen each other was at my birthday party, where she sat between us and him. I will admit I was frustrated with my in-laws at the time. I said some things that may have fueled her narrative, and I regret them to this day. And I feel immense guilt for not recognizing sooner what was happening. I was mad at them because I was only being told what was happening through him. And I was frustrated because I had been helping sister-in-law M plan the wedding with other sister-in-law G. And they had thrown tons of roadblocks up and keeping the cost of the wedding down. I let my frustrations override my observation, and I fell into her trap. Red flags existed during the wedding. He wouldn't tell anyone his flight schedule. He rented a car and wouldn't let anyone ride in it with him. He had to drive separate to every event of the weekend, and he would disappear into the car to talk to her for hours, including during the wedding. If we came into the hotel room with our daughter, he'd quickly put in his headphones and leave the room. He was glued to his phone and looked dissociated. At the time, I thought it was because my frustrated mother-in-law asked him on night one of this 4-day event, "When are we going to see more of you? We miss you." Which he responded like a robot saying, "Mom, I will not be discussing these things with you this weekend." My husband and I were not focused on this because we were helping with the wedding and taking our daughter to explore a new city. It was our first vacation since COVID, and we love sister-in-law Em and new husband and wanted to enjoy this awesome weekend they had planned, and they had asked for our help, which felt like an honor. When he retired home, it got worse. Suddenly his text messages changed, and it was obvious it wasn't him writing them anymore. She was writing them. He would take hours to respond when it used to take minutes. He used to Snapchat all the time. He's our daughter's godfather, and those two were buddies. He was her Uncle Bill, and she loved being his buddy. They weren't buddies anymore. He acted like she was made of slime when she tried to hug him at the wedding, saying "aw," but not acting like he used to. Suddenly, the Snapchats went unopened, and the funny messages stopped. Then he told us he wasn't going to keep Facebook Messenger anymore, that he wasn't going to go on Instagram anymore. We asked, "Why are you trying to do a social media cleanse?" We chatted about something like that in the past. No, girlfriend pointed out that Mom and Dad could see where I was on Snapchat and that they could see I'd read the messages, so she thought it would be better if I just used text and only went on Instagram once a week. Meanwhile, she's posting daily more and more self-indulgent thirst trap-esque photos, including her in her bra and underwear, seductive Halloween photos, etc. I'm not shaming her or anything. Post what you want, but I would feel weird posting nothing but seductive selfies on what is supposed to be my professional page and getting tons of comments while making my partner delete all the comments on his own photos. Example, on Halloween, she and he went as a ghost and a cowgirl, which was, Spirit Halloween sexy cowgirl. One of my husband's cousins, who is a funny person, wrote, "Ah yes, the classic slutty cowgirl and ghost combination." He responded, "No, just a cowgirl," and deleted the comments. Christmas will be held at cousin's mom's house. Brother-in-law and girlfriend won't be attending because cousin's remarks were horrible, and she is not comfortable being in the same room as someone who would call her that. And he shouldn't be either. The tipping point for me, and the reason I'm writing this, is because the other day my husband and I went to visit the family to celebrate Christmas early. We don't want to travel on Christmas with the toddler and the growing COVID risk. So, we plan to drive up to see everyone and come home in 72 hours. We aren't seeing my family because we can't drive there and because my mom works in the medical field. We tried multiple times attempting to see if he was coming for Christmas dinner, but she, wouldn't commit. Then in person we asked again. He acted like he'd never been told. That was off and felt like he'd been gaslit. She, on the other hand, was about as fake as it comes, pretending to be frustrated, and that's when my fear response was triggered. I could see her calculating. I could see her finding a way to keep him. If it had been last year, he would have come in a hazmat suit to see my daughter if that's what it meant. But what made me think of the abuse and click me into action were two things. He checked with her every time he said something, looking at her like a dog looking for approval, and she physically corrected his behavior. He has a nervous tic. He runs his chin when he's nervous. She pulled his hand from his face and gave him a look like, "Stop fucking doing that." He recoiled and looked down like someone who had broken a rule and was going to be punished for it. We later learned from Bill's best friend this wasn't the first time. That she had told him his sniff was annoying and totally uncool, and that his throat-clearing tic wasn't sophisticated. His eyes were sunken and he didn't laugh the whole time we saw him. He wasn't my brother-in-law anymore. My husband broke down into tears as soon as we got in the car. Now, I've seen my husband cry 3 times, either out of fear or sadness in our relationship, and none of them were like this. It was then we learned that brother-in-law was racking up credit card debt almost triple what his income was, that she had told him this is the lifestyle she expected him to have. Her family is wealthy and likes to throw their money around, which is fine, you do what you want with your money. But at 22 with college debt, you shouldn't be charging triple your income to your credit card and carrying a balance on multiple cards. They stayed at a 5-star $500 a night hotel in Chicago for a weekend. and went to restaurants they sure couldn't afford. And it just all felt like she was sucking him for all the money and such she could give her. Now that my eyes are open, I'm so concerned and scared that she's going to continue until he's all used up or someone better comes along. And then she will leave him broken and alone. She's convinced him we don't love him, which we do. She's told him our intentions are nefarious and other things like that. I just need help in seeing if I'm wrong, and maybe this is an abuse. And if it is, how do I help? What can I do to help? I'm sorry it's such a long story. I'm sorry it rambles in parts, but I'm desperate for help. Alright, first and foremost, you need to learn how to use spell check, because holy crap is the syntax out of whack in some places. Words are totally wrong, whole ass broken sentences, and just random word fuck ups like landmines. I like the story, but I'm leaving in some of these spelling mistakes for y'all to suffer with, as I did enough takes to get the vocals correct. Now, moving on to the meat of things. So, the family really messed things up for themselves. It's obvious this is a controlling, manipulative, narcissistic person who's gotten their hooks dug in deep on your brother-in-law, OP. You did not do yourselves any favors with that wedding stuff. COVID restriction or not, it was messed up to uninvite your brother-in-law's girlfriend. How could that not be seen as a serious problem? And that harmless joke obviously wasn't as harmless as y'all thought, but that pales in comparison. It gets way worse with your cousin knowing this chick is a fucking ego trip, makes the slutty costume remark, which is just firstly stupid, secondly wrong. I mean, y'all really ain't making it easy to be on your side here. Although, with all that said, yeah. The fact is, the girl is a full-on, 100% purebred succubus. She's using that silver spoon she was born with to dig into your brother-in-law's head and heart, take away what she doesn't like, and replace it with what she does. She's already won the war, though. Short of having a cult deprogrammer snatch him up in the middle of the night and some serious work being done, there's near zero chance he's gonna leave her. I wish I could say something better, but the truth is what it is, and you guys gave that girl enough ammunition to use against the family. So, with all that depressing stuff said, if y'all like today's extra long story, let me know. If you've got some things to say, put them down in the comments. If you think I'm being too harsh, make sure to hit them like and sub buttons on your way down to the comment section to make this your safe place. And I'll catch y'all for story time tomorrow. Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.